those air raid sirens, and then once people had got to the shelters, then they started hearing popping as the Iron Dome defence system clicked in and started shooting down the missiles that were headed their way from Iran. John Lyons, our America's editor, is with me here in the studio. John, I know you've been in Israel when the sirens have gone off like that. I mean, Israelis are used to it, but it doesn't make it any less frightening.
Well, Lorna, it's a haunting sound. I've also heard them in Kyiv since the Russian invasion, and it has a psychological effect on you because although mathematically the chances of you being hit in a big city like Tel Aviv or Jerusalem are small, often the mind thinks the worst in that situation. So it's very unnerving. It means that you have to run with children or elderly people into bomb shelters, and hospitals have to try to get patients who are with oxygen tanks or whatever. So it has a very dislocating impact. It's clear from what we see that it appears that the Iranians have not managed really to penetrate Israeli airspace that we can see. As I said, there is military censorship in operation in Israel at the moment, so there may have been some hits that we haven't yet seen because they're not allowed to be broadcast, but it looks like Tehran and Iran is being much harder hit. So what we know so far is that sirens have been heard across the region. The United States and Iran began this new war against Iran, and Iran appears to have sprayed some missiles around the region, or perhaps even drones. I'm surprised. It wouldn't surprise me if the Iranians quickly move into serious drone mode. They are major makers of drones, and I haven't seen yet too much evidence.
Do they get underneath the Iron Dome?
The thing about drones, like in Ukraine, for example, the Russians using Iranian drones often send the drones in, say, along a river, maybe a metre or two high.
I mean, it's very easy to detect a big bomb that's heading in your direction.
And, you know, I think the fear for the United States and Israel, and they would have certainly looked at this in their planning, would be if to Iran, because they have hundreds of thousands of drones. They're a major exporter of drones to Russia. Russia's one of their biggest customers. And Iran is complicit in Russia's killing of civilians in Ukraine. There's no doubt about that. Iran has been supplying just as much of the drones. Russia's starting to make more. But I'm surprised so far that the Iranians haven't used that drone card.
Not that we know of.
Well, not that we know of. We're not getting all the information of yet. It's a very dramatically changing story, but I think the Israelis and Americans will be on alert for, like, you know, a whole lot of bees coming. You know, they're very hard to stop and detect. And in fact, what the Ukrainians do is when they see 100 drones coming, the Israelis will do the same thing. They fire like a water sprinkler, a spray of huge bullets into the air, just sort of layers of these, and the drones then fly into all of these bullets. And they just keep spraying them. And I think the Israelis will have that ready along their border, looking into Jordan. They'll have that ready in preparation for any drone escalation here.
John, a first comment from Russia. A Russian Foreign Ministry spokesman says, as before, Russia is ready to assist in the search for peaceful solutions based on international law, mutual respects and a balance of interests. The Russian Foreign Ministry goes on to say that they demand that the situation be immediately returned to the path of political and diplomatic settlement. And Israel strikes on Iran. It says the international community must immediately give objective assessments of irresponsible actions. So, an interesting statement given the war in Ukraine, but
to hear Russia talk about international law when Vladimir Putin's regime is killing hundreds and thousands of civilians in Ukraine, I think that statement, Russia quoting international law, deserves the obvious contempt that people can attach to it.
John Lyons, for now, thank you very much. Very good evening. You are watching the ABC News channel. If you're just joining us, let's recap on the breaking news coming from the Middle East. The United States and Israel have launched a joint operation against Iran. It is unclear if the 86-year-old was there at the time, but we believe he is now out of Tehran. Iran says 5 students have been killed at a girls' school, the first confirmed fatalities in Iran in the operation. US President Donald Trump has released a statement on Truth Social saying his administration's objective in striking Iran is to defend the American people by eliminating imminent threats from the Iranian regime. He goes on to say Americans may be lost and we may have casualties.
We are going to destroy their missiles and raise their missile industry to the ground. It will be totally, again, obliterated. We're going to annihilate their Navy. We're going to ensure that the region's terrorist proxies can no longer destabilize the region or the world. I do not make this statement lightly. The Iranian regime seeks to kill. The lives of courageous American heroes may be lost, and we may have casualties. That often happens in war. But we're doing this not for now. We're doing this for the future, and it is a noble mission.
We also heard from Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He says the operation's aim